Hi, friends. There are people who can lead meetings, answer everyone's needs, manage households, carry entire teams, push through exhaustion, and still sit down at the end of the day feeling like they did not do enough. And if you are someone who constantly stays in motion, constantly productive, constantly useful, you may not even realize how uncomfortable rest has become for you. Because the moment that things slow down, your brain starts searching for pressure again. The unfinished email, the laundry, the workout you missed, the groceries, the thing that you forgot to reply to, the food choices you need to fix tomorrow. So instead of resting, you reach for stimulation. You clean something, you organize something, you scroll, you research, you answer messages in bed, and you start planning tomorrow before today even ended. Because stopping can feel strangely unsafe. And this is where high-capacity people struggle quietly. And it's not because they are lazy, and it's not because they lack discipline, but because somewhere along the way, their worth became connected to performance, to being dependable, needed, capable, helpful, and productive. So now, rest does not feel restorative. It feels irresponsible. Welcome back to Your Relationships Are Keeping You Fat, the podcast where we look at the patterns shaping your health, your habits, and the way you experience yourself inside your body. I'm your host, Darla, and today we're talking about productivity identity. The person who feels guilty sitting down, the one who cannot relax without mentally justifying it first, the one who only feels good enough when she is producing, fixing, helping, achieving, or staying ahead. Because the people who carry the most often struggle here the hardest. And it's not because they are broken, but because the behaviors that helped them succeed professionally quietly taught them to disconnect from themselves physically and emotionally. And eventually, the body starts responding to that pressure. Somewhere along the way, achievement stopped being something they pursued, and it became something they depended on to feel okay. For a lot of people, productivity became who they are. They became the reliable one, the strong one, the one who handles everything, the one who never drops the ball. And at first, those traits were rewarded. You got praised for being mature, responsible, hardworking, easy to depend on. People trusted you. They expected a lot from you. They relied on your capacity. And over time, slowing down started feeling uncomfortable. And if your nervous system learned that performance equals safety, then rest can start feeling emotionally threatening, even when the body is exhausted. And over time, the body starts organizing itself around that demand. This is the part that many people never fully connect. The body does not distinguish between emotional pressure, cognitive overload, overtraining, undereating, a lack of sleep, constant multitasking, or always feeling on. It all registers as demand. And when demand stays high long enough without enough recovery, the nervous system starts adapting around survival instead of restoration. So your cortisol stays elevated longer, your recovery becomes less efficient, your sleep quality drops, your cravings increase, your energy becomes less stable. And then the brain starts scanning for relief more aggressively. And many people interpret those changes as laziness, inconsistency, or a lack of motivation, when the body may simply be responding to chronic overload. Some people do not realize how exhausted they are until their body stops cooperating. The body often speaks last, especially in the people who learned to ignore themselves first. The people that are most likely to struggle here are often the ones that are best at overriding themselves. They override the hunger, they override fatigue, they override their emotional needs, they override their recovery, they override their stress, and they know how to function tired. And that is why burnout sneaks up on them, because externally, they still look capable. They're still productive, they're still high performing, they're still dependable. But internally, the body is compensating. The jaw tight before the even day starts, the mind racing while the body is exhausted, checking emails while eating, the drinking caffeine because slowing down feels worse, sitting down to rest, and immediately feeling behind. Taking rest days that still involve nonstop tasks. But eventually, the body starts competing for attention. And it's not because it is weak, because it has been ignored for too long. Somewhere along the way, rest stopped being a need and became a reward. A lot of high-achieving people unconsciously believe that rest has to be earned. They can only relax if everything is finished, everyone else is okay, the checklist is complete, the workout is done, the kitchen is clean, and that they were productive enough first. Ugh, this feels like me. But the problem is the checklist never actually ends. There is always another email, another responsibility, another task, another thing to optimize. So rest keeps getting postponed. And eventually, the body stops whispering politely. So fatigue becomes chronic, the recovery slows down, your food cravings increase, your patience gets thinner, and everything starts feeling heavier than it should. And then they blame themselves for struggling with consistency, when the real issue may be depletion. Productivity can become emotional armor. And this is another layer that many people quietly recognize once they hear it. Sometimes their productivity becomes protection, because if you stay busy enough, you don't have to fully feel certain things. Disappointment, loneliness, grief, body discomfort, relationship tension, fear, emotional exhaustion. Staying productive can create the illusion of control because movement feels safer than stillness. Some people are not addicted to productivity. They are terrified of what they might feel without it. Because as long as they are producing, they do not have to fully sit with themselves. And honestly, this is something I still have to pay attention to in my own life. Because when you spend years operating in constant go mode, slowing down does not automatically feel peaceful. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable at first. And I notice this most when I finally take time away from work or step out of my normal routine. For the first couple of days, my brain is still searching for productivity. I'm thinking about opportunities, what I should be doing, what I could be catching up on, what I might be falling behind on while resting. And it usually takes me around 3 days before my nervous system finally starts settling enough to actually feel present. And that matters because a lot of people think that rest should feel instantly relaxing. But for high capacity people who have normalized pressure for years, the rest can initially feel unfamiliar instead. So women feel deeply out of sync with themselves during their slower seasons because they genuinely do not know what to do with themselves without productivity driving the day. There's no checklist, no urgency, no constant output, no role to perform. And that discomfort can make people move back toward busyness very quickly. And it's not because the rest is wrong for them, but because their nervous system has not fully learned how to feel safe there yet. And this is why slowing down can feel emotionally activating. And it's not because the rest is dangerous. It's because the silence creates space for feelings that busyness helped cover. The next 6 months are going to pass either way. And the question is, will your habits, your body, and your energy feel any different? If you're ready for that to change, this is where we start. My signature 6-month body and lifestyle transformation is my most comprehensive coaching experience. This is for women who want structure, guidance, and support they can actually follow, not another plan to start over with. Inside, you'll get personalized training delivered through my coaching app, nutrition guidance tailored to your body and your lifestyle, weekly check-ins for accountability and adjustments, and direct access to me for support along the way. This is about building consistency, trust with your body, and results that actually last. You can learn more and apply at missnewbootyfitness.com/coaching. That's missnewbootyfitness.com/coaching. Now back to the show. Sometimes the hardest part about slowing down is that everyone around you became comfortable benefiting from your overfunctioning. The person who always says yes, who always handles it, who always remembers everything, who always keeps things moving, who always carries the emotional weight. So when you finally try to create space, guilt shows up immediately. Because people can become attached to your constant availability, even while it is exhausting you. Some women become so used to carrying everything that even asking for help starts feeling uncomfortable in their own body. And that matters because some people are not only managing their own pressure, they are carrying everyone else's too. And fitness culture often rewards these patterns. To push harder, have no excuses, stay disciplined, never miss a workout, earn your food, do more. So people who are already tying their worth to performance often become even more disconnected from their body. When rest starts feeling lazy, recovery feels unproductive, and gentleness feels weak. And eventually, their health becomes another category where they feel pressure to perform perfectly. But the body does not become healthier from constant pressure. It becomes safer through recovery, nourishment, regulation, and support. I see this constantly in coaching. The client who tracks everything perfectly, never misses a workout, overthinks every food choice, constantly researches health, keeps increasing effort, quietly carries enormous stress, and still feels frustrated that her body is not responding the way she expected. Because what looks like discipline externally sometimes feels like survival internally, and the body can feel the difference. This is where food enters the conversation too, because many high-performing people use food control the same way that they use productivity. And they use this as proof that they are doing well. Being disciplined, being good, being successful, being in control. So when life feels chaotic, food becomes another place that they tighten the pressure. They have smaller portions, they start skipping meals, they have more caffeine, there's more food rules, and there's less flexibility. But the body experiences that as additional stress, not support. And eventually, the cravings will increase. The nighttime eating increases. The food thoughts take up more mental space. The adherence becomes harder because exhausted nervous systems seek the relief fast. And it's not because they suddenly became weak. It's because the system became too demanding to sustain. Many people were praised for ignoring themselves long before they realized they were abandoning themselves. And for high-achieving women, rest often feels emotionally unsafe before it feels restorative. So, what does support actually look like here? Sometimes it looks like eating lunch before you are shaky and irritable, taking a walk without turning it into productivity, watching a show without folding laundry simultaneously, leaving blank space in your schedule, going to bed instead of pushing through another task, scaling your training intensity during your high-stress weeks, sitting down without needing to justify it first, allowing recovery before the body forces it. And sometimes the healthiest thing a high-capacity woman can do is stop treating exhaustion like proof that you are working hard enough. There is a version of success where your body does not have to be sacrificed to maintain your life, where consistency comes from structure instead of pressure, where rest no longer feels like failure, where health supports your ambition instead of constantly recovering from it. So instead of only asking, how do I become more disciplined? Maybe ask, why does rest feel uncomfortable for me? What am I afraid will happen if I slow down? What feelings does productivity help me avoid? When did I start believing that I had to earn recovery? What signals has my body been sending that I keep overriding? Have I confused exhaustion with accomplishment for so long that I no longer recognize the difference? Because awareness changes the conversation. So this week, just notice. Notice how quickly you reach for stimulation when stillness appears. How often you delay basic needs. How uncomfortable empty space feels. How often you say, after this one thing. How quickly the guilt appears when your body asks for rest. Just notice the phone, the scrolling, the multitasking, the constant noise, the pressure to stay useful. Sometimes constant motion is not energy. Sometimes it is nervous system avoidance. So this week, no fixing, no judging. Just notice. Your worth is not measured by how exhausted you are. Your value is not determined by how much you produce. And your body is not a machine built for endless output. You do not have to reach depletion before you deserve recovery. And needing rest does not make you lazy, weak, or unmotivated. It makes you human. Lasting change is not built from constantly overriding yourself. It is built from supporting yourself consistently enough that your body no longer has to fight for your attention. So if this episode brought someone to mind, share it with her. Honestly, I'm sending this to my own sister too, because I see these patterns in the women that I love and in myself. This kept me in survival mode for years. And so many high-achieving people are silently carrying the exhaustion while blaming themselves for why the consistency feels hard. And sometimes the most powerful realization is this: the problem was never a lack of discipline. It may be that they have been surviving for so long that they no longer recognize what support feels like. So, as you move through this week, pay attention to the moments where your body asks for rest and your brain immediately responds with pressure. The moment that you try to earn recovery, the moment that you feel guilty sitting still, the moment that you convince yourself to push through exhaustion again, and before you automatically override those signals, pause and ask yourself, would I speak to someone that I love this way? Because your body may not be asking you to do less forever. It may be simply asking you to stop treating depletion like a requirement for your worthiness. Stay connected to that, and I'll see you in the next episode.